This is a 2002 BMW 540i. Has the old telltale timing chain noise problem. So it's going to get a set of timing chains and tensioners in it. That's an outfit right there. What's going on here? Oh, that's nice. I know that guy too. He knows better than that. One thing that remains the same on this motor, whether you're doing stuff to the front of it or the back of it, you got to drain the antifreeze out of it. So that can be done at any time. I've got to put timing chains, guides, and tensioners in this. Replacing the PCV valve vent, diaphragm in the back of the intake, and the valley pan, which is subject to leak because it's just sealed with silicone. And the oil pan is going to have a pile of junk in it from the timing chain guides busted up, more than likely. So it'll have to be taken apart and oil drained out of it, and the chunks picked out of the pan. This box of parts was about $1,200. New water pump's going to get a new water pump put on it. BMW antifreeze. Plus a few extras. Let's see, special is what that is. And before I really get going too far along, I'm going to submerge this chain in motor oil and let it soak. Before I get too much dirt on it. One of the upper tensioners. And a seal pack. One of the upper chains. And a new thermostat. Some type of filter or something. bagged, body bag, thermostat housing. And some seals. Class front crank seal. BMW antifreeze. Another one of the upper chains. And the guides. More guides. Tensioner arm. Seal. For this doodad, no doubt. PCV valve housing. And the oil pan gasket. Looks like it's time to get ready to rumble. And last but not least, the valley pan. I don't have no plastic cover on it. An O-ring seal back here. Pretty slim pickings, but beats silicone, I guess. Okay, the chain's soaking. There's all kinds of little tiny air bubbles coming up out of it. Just cut the top out of an oil container, quart of oil, and that'll displace. Although the chain had a reasonable amount of oil on it, it's always best to soak the links first, minimize wear on. It'd take a while for it to soak in with the motor running. As I say, you can drain the coolant out of it at your leisure before you really start getting into the guts. Anyway, first thing I need to do is take this beauty cover off of it. These have push button deals that release it. Just kind of lift up on it a little bit. I'll throw this over the hill. Oh yeah. Think about it anyway. I'm going to take this air pipe off of it, hose clamp here, and unbuckle it, the top from these clamps here, and plug this mass airflow sensor. It looks like I got a little break. The clamp is already loose. And it has a line snapped on here on the end. Just slipped off. I think it's broke. That clip's seems kind of funny and easy to lose there. And there's another line hooked to it. There's 2 lines on the end of it. This mass airflow sensor. Unplug it. Just squeeze these clips on the ends and wiggle it off there. I'm going to go ahead and take this top off the radiator. Push pins here. These diagonals are great for getting underneath these push pins and lifting the heads up 2/3 of the way, and then get in behind them and pop them out. And it has a reserve tank on it. I squeezed the ears in on that plastic piece after taking the coolant bottle cap off, and lifted the plastic up to tilt this bottle back. And I'm going to take that hose clamp loose on that hose down in there. I took a couple of 10mm bolts out of the water pump pulley. I don't have the exact spanner wrench to fit that nut. I'm going to stick a long screwdriver down against one of the 10mm bolts and a 10-inch crescent wrench on it. It is left-hand thread, not like everything else of critical nature on this. So that's what I'm looking like. I'm holding the screwdriver to the left and pushing the crescent wrench to the right. Just try to keep the tip of the screwdriver on the nut, not flat on the nut, or you'll be fighting yourself. For those with more creative intuition or in a hurry and you're replacing a water pump, you can catch that nut with an air chisel and it'll motivate it. Be sure not to let that fall off and get into the radiator. As a general rule, keep your fan in an upright position that it's running on the car. It's not good on these to lay them down flat. Generally, they give me a little gap. Take this top off, or the shroud off of this. Well, I guess I'll pull the shroud off now. I've got the bottle back a little bit. Watch this nipple on it. Take a bungee cord and hold that bottle up. If antifreeze is out of it already, I could just take the hose clamp and pull that bottle out of it. I just pulled that coolant bottle up out of there. There's enough hose on it. Give me room to pull this shroud up out of here. And it's got a plug-in on it. I have a pile as high as the car over there, where this is everywhere. Okay, getting into the workings now. I'm going to fasten that bottle up there so don't run these pins through the radiator. For now. In business. Ah, snake, snake. I'm going to go ahead and take the accessory belt off. To get the accessory belt loose, just loosen those two bolts right there and let the tension go where the slot is. It'll adjust the off of the belt through that slide. All that needs removed anyway. That's the belt routing for it. Take a screwdriver and pop this plastic cap off of the tensioner pulley to reveal a T50 Torx bit in there. And I take it out. I'll take that whole tensioner assembly off. If you're reusing your drive belt, mark the direction of rotation on it. I just kind of abbreviated crank, pointing forward. So when the belt goes back on, that'll be put back in the same spot. I'm going to go ahead and finish taking that 10 millimeters out of this water pump pulley and this tensioner assembly off. The Torx bit and the two adjusting nuts. Lay that up as an assembly. If they're bad, replace them. If they're sticky or noisy or loose, super loose. This is going to be getting a new alternator O-ring around it too, to seal the coolant, make sure the coolant stays sealed in it. The alternator was changed and the O-ring was reused, so I'll get one of them. Did spot a leak over here on this sensor on the lower radiator pipe. That's probably where the coolant loss was at. It's not even running and it's stripping. I went ahead and transferred the pulley to the new water pump. Went ahead and take the air conditioner belt off. Just loosening these two 13 millimeter bolts. Pull that assembly off of there. Mark the direction of your belt rotation if you're reusing it. I'll set a drain pan underneath the alternator. I'm going to go ahead and take the plug ends off of it, the battery cable, loosen the bolts up on it. I figure that's good as a place any to drain the antifreeze out of it. At this point, if you're super cautious or careless, whatever you want to call it, now is a good time to unhook the battery before you start fooling with the electrical terminals on the alternator. I'm going to go ahead and take this idler pulley off below the alternator. There's a T50 Torx bit in the center of it. Torx bolt. Taking the alternator loose. Alright, here comes the antifreeze. It's a flood. Once you take these 6 bolts out of the alternator and the antifreeze is drained out, you may or may not want to put a top mark on the alternator for reference. This really only goes in one way to be able to get the battery cable back on it. But I'm going to take this upper radiator hose off and the coolant hose going to the alternator housing. Just slide these clips up. There's a little resting place for them to set in. You definitely want to come off straight. Like that. That's a big enough hole to get that alternator out of there. This thing weighs 15 pounds or 20 or so. Gotta be careful with it. I'm gonna go ahead and stand this reserve bottle up and drain it. Start taking this other radiator hose off. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the clip to the reserve hose on the bottom of the thermostat housing and get it out of the way and lay it over here. I went ahead and unplugged this sensor from the upper radiator hose, radiator water outlet hose. I'm going to take these two 5/16 out of this radiator brackets, pull the radiator up out of it. Pull the clip on this hose and remove it to get the radiator up out of there. Have your drain pan under it for the rest of the antifreeze in the radiator if you didn't get it all out. I got a little room to work. I think there's a rubber grommet fell. Let's find out. That's a good place for it. Won't get damaged up there normally.